Okay, I've got 64 slides in limited time. Links to full essay and slides are in description. Hi, I'm Patrick Burridge. I'm a graduating neuroscience student, and I do a lot of stuff with bioinformatics. I want to tell you about how Miami University's current administrative structure, by design, prevents any meaningful progress on diversity, equity, and inclusion. I arrived at this conclusion on my own, and discussions with numerous students, faculty, and staff only reiterated this point. In fact, 15 members of Miami's DEI task force publicly resigned in embittered, powerless frustration, saying, "This demonstrates the overwhelming lack of authority the task force holds in being able to successfully implement the solutions created." And here's that full letter. So why does DEI matter? Hear me out on this as someone who is also unfamiliar until recently. First, a misconception about quotas. Kapler et al. In 2017 considered a complete sample of over 200,000 publications from major astronomy journals and looked at the gender of the primary author of each. They found that even when controlling for all of these factors, female authors receive 10% fewer citations than male counterparts. So imagine, an institution is looking for new astronomy professors. They consider citation count independent of the candidate's gender. What happens? There are now 10% fewer female astronomy professors. Can you fix this by forcing scientists to cite equal number of female authors? Obviously not. Can you fix this by forcing institutions to hire more female professors? Unfortunately, this is the only option available as a short-term solution. What is the far more sensible long-term solution? Teach students how to think critically about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And how well is the Miami University administration doing at this? Garbage. Even our very own student body president feels unsafe at times. Many other students do as well. My first semester in Miami, I took a Miami Plan mandated diversity course. And at the end of the semester, with a perfect score, I still couldn't even define what that meant. My key takeaway was to avoid taking any more Miami Plan courses. I have learned since that there are faculty at this institution capable of prodigiously teaching these concepts. However, because of the exceedingly poor administrative structure at Miami University, there is simply no mechanism available to me to raise effective voices nor to diminish the ineffectual ones. Neither I nor any other student can currently have any real impact on how DEI will be taught in the future. So if you have believed that DEI is stupid, dumb, counterproductive, and or pointless, you should care about this, because I'm going to tell you exactly why that hasn't improved, and thus what should be done about it. So, who holds all of the power in Miami University's administrative structure? It's a board of trustees. Don't worry, this will be quick. So the Ohio governor unilaterally appoints 9 trustees for 9 years, 1 each year. The Board of Trustees then unilaterally appoints all of the university's administrative officers. And that's not all they do. Codified in 1909 is the policy describing the total and absolute power the Board of Trustees has over the university. The president retains the grand authority to appoint advisory committees to do advising. And the University Senate is a purely advisory body. That's their own self-description. Incidentally, out of 72 members, only 15 are students. What a voting bloc. And again, putting into perspective, the student body has over 5 times the financial stake as the state of Ohio. Why doesn't the university just go private, one might hesitate to ask? Well, because the Board of Trustees would have to approve that decision. So it's not possible to make informed decisions without having access to information. And Miami University's administration makes it extremely difficult for us to have information. Here are 3 big opportunities for institutional level data reporting. The One Miami Campus Climate Survey in 2017 was performed by an outside contractor, and the full reporter data was never released to the public. The annual Miami Student Health Survey is performed by an outside contractor, and full reporter data is never released to the public. The Office of Equity and Equal Opportunity handles all instances of harassment or discrimination in a non-transparent internal process, and they report 0 data to the public. What about trying to talk to individuals? So as a part of my research process, I tried reaching out to the Center for Student Diversity and Inclusion, and I got slammed with this insultingly dismissive set of responses. I also tried contacting several of the remaining members of the DEI task force, but none of them wanted to talk to me neither. The administration, in fact, has a long history of this kind of inexcusable behavior. Here is a condensed timeline of racial problems at Miami University. In 1970, there was a peaceful protest with 6 demands: removal of ROTC from campus and furthering racial equity. The students were forcibly removed from campus as state police swarmed the demonstration with tear gas and attack dogs. 184 students were arrested in a process that President Shriver defended as, quote, standard operating procedure. It took students draining Oxford's water supply to at last permit negotiation with the administration. In 1997, pervasive hate crimes, including death threats sent to black students, spawned a Black Action movement, and their peaceful tactics advocating for change were widely criticized by many in the administration. In 2017 and 2018, prominent displays of racial slurs on social media by white Miami students catalyzed a Black Action Movement 2.0, repeating the same tired demands for racial equity and inclusion. The administration created a DEI task force that seems like it could be poised to finally resolve these outstanding problems and demands that now stretch back over 50 years. However, this last July, 15 members of the DEI task force publicly resigned. They say the culture of the task force has an overwhelming condescending behavior. Gender at Miami University faces a similar storied history and glacial progress in the present. Since the founding of the LGBTQ director position in 2000, the position has been vacant 7 times, destroying institutional memory, leaving vulnerable students without support, and resetting whatever meager policy progress there might have been. 3 examples that are stalled because of this most recent vacancy. The Campus Pride Index is an outstanding opportunity for gender equity and inclusion metrics, but the application process lacks Board of Trustees approval. Regarding chosen name versus dead name, chosen name can appear on diploma this year by special pleading of an alumni association, but you still can't change it on transcript because there is no Board of Trustees approval. Last May, the Miami Initiative for Advancing Mentoring and Investing in Women issued a grant for the establishment of a clothing closet on campus, but due to the vacancy, it similarly lacks Board of Trustees approval. Academically destructive ableism is rampant across Miami University. A basic example, the majority of professors at the university maintain anti-technology statements on their course syllabi. Thus, just to be able to use assistive technology in the classroom, students are required to go through a lengthy process of submitting medical documentation and interviews to student disability services. The stigma is fierce, evidenced by student disability services doing their utmost to remain discreetly cloistered away where they can't hurt Miami's image. Genuinely, in a mere half hour of talking with them myself, it was proudly instructively emphasized to me 5 times how discreet they are. Another long-standing problem at Miami University, very familiar to anyone near the Oxford campus, young undergraduate students struggling with alcoholism are every year boastfully told by President Crawford that state police are being brought in to arrest them for their condition. It matters not how many countless dedicated hours the alcoholism researchers in the psychology department put towards solutions, when all other messages to the average students are drowned out by this administration's primitive chest-beating criminalizing. Let's think about some fundamental reasons for change. Administrative culture permeates downwards. Universities are typically ideal settings for dialogue, but not so at Miami University because the administration makes itself an obstacle to open, honest, and transparent dialogue occurring on our campus. A most recent example, in this very Miami Plan course I am writing this as a part of, our given objective is to promote a specific nuanced solution to a local problem. We were prompted to respond to examples of how students plan to go about doing that, and I criticized the fact that they did not intend to contact any stakeholders. I was told this criticism was undeserving. Engaging a dialogue with stakeholders is far too ambitious. The course and culture actively fosters an attitude of paternalism where there is obvious and immediate opportunity for meaningful civic engagement and productive dialogue. Student engagement is an important concept. Non-traditional or diverse students disproportionately benefit from increased engagement, but are also far less likely to be engaged. That's because there are critical mismatches between resources and services offered by universities for defined groups of non-traditional students, and the support sought by students due to stigma or the opacity of those systems and processes. These failed top-down student engagement and DEI strategies are currently inevitable at Miami University given the Board of Trustees power structure. The university has a disappointing 73% 4-year graduation rate, and is still frequently in regional news for its intolerant and discriminatory racial climate. We need a framework for discussing this further. Sherry Arnstein was writing in 1969 as former chief advisor in the U.S. Department of Health, Education, and Welfare. She was charged with overseeing the 150 cities in the Model Cities program. Only a small handful of the cities met the aims of the program, and Arnstein noted how common between them they had all achieved high degrees of citizen power as a defining characteristic. Such successful cities included New Haven, St. Louis, and Cambridge. Arnstein developed a typology for describing this over many years, guided by her own experiences and extensive official reports from the organizations involved at the time. Her work has been cited over 23,000 times and continues to serve as an enlightening framework for discussing institutional policy and decision-making. So, there's 8 rungs describing degrees of citizen power, tokenism, and non-participation. The student population at Miami University is mostly situated on the therapy or informing rung, possibly lower. Students are very familiar with all of the DEI email spam informing us about seminars, special days, and repetitive vacuous rhetoric. And the recurring insult when racial tensions are high, exemplified on April 20th, quote, "Racism is a cancer that must be eradicated," President Crawford exuberantly extols in this recent email, where his only action is to again enthusiastically usher Black students, faculty, and staff towards student counseling services and employment assistance. University staff and student leaders are barred from making it higher than the consultation or placation rung, and they are frequently flung down to the manipulation rung, resulting in rapid turnover and/or dejected complacency. In fact, the entire staff of the Center for Student Diversity and Inclusion quit over the past year, and in July, 15 members of the DEI task force publicly resigned in disgust. Another task force, another facade. Looking at the most recent meeting minutes from the Board of Trustees, we see Faculty Assembly demands that shared governance at Miami adhere to all of these national standards. The administration must meaningfully include faculty in decisions affecting the academic mission and must transparently share budgetary information relevant to those decisions. The Board of Trustees responded by referring the matter to committee for review and recommendations, if any, and saying that such changes were beyond the board's purview. Clearly, the Board of Trustees has zero incentive to change. Even these most modest and reasonable of demands are summarily swatted aside in mere seconds. We need administrative reform. Let's take a moment. What's the point of university? Yes, there are many perspectives about it, but what's common between all of them? Produce democratically capable citizens. Students throughout history have shown that they care a great deal about democracy, and students at Miami are certainly no exception. Look, I'm just one student with very limited time. I can't draw out a complete and robust roadmap, but it is extremely evident that nothing else meaningful can happen without first dealing with this 19th century Board of Trustees nonsense. So first, the Board of Trustees needs to be reincarnated as the Advisory Board of Trustees. Second, the University Senate needs to be restructured to have a student representation that accurately reflects their overwhelming stake in the institution. And third, student organizations need to have a clear, accessible, and protected path to acquiring real decision-making power. How to do this? To Arnstein, an equitable distribution of power was best realized by a major source of funding making its continued funding contingent on it. To that end, current students, show that you care about this by talking to anyone who will listen, especially alumni and professors. Alumni, do not give to the university anymore until this changes, and make that fact known as loudly as you can. Professors, encourage disconnected students to care. And remember, participation without redistribution of power will only ever maintain the status quo.